What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today we are covering the first reviews or reactions coming from the recent press screenings and premieres from a movie. This one being Beetlejuice, highly anticipated. But if this is your first time here and you like this type of content, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing, and clicking that bell. Helps out the channel a ton, and you're notified every time we upload. So especially if you like, reviews, video essays, covering this type of stuff, reactions, anything related to movies and pop culture, please consider doing that. It would be greatly appreciated. But like I said, Beetlejuice 2 or Beetlejuice is, one of the most anticipated movies of the year. Definitely, like, even trickling down into one of the higher most anticipated movies of the year now that we're in the back half of 2024. So a lot of people are looking forward to this. The original Beetlejuice is a classic. I personally love it. It's not the greatest movie of all time, but the creativity, the effects, the wacky zaniness that is the Beetlejuice franchise at this point, it's just so lovable. Michael Keaton is an icon in the role, and I can't wait to see what they do in the sequel, and if it's worthy, if it stands on its own but also feels either necessary or is a great next installment or next chapter in this. I really hope so. I wasn't a fan of like Dumbo and Tim Burton's last work, but he did solid work on Wednesday, and hopefully he delivers with Beetlejuice. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and jump into these. We got plenty to cover. The first reaction we have comes from Vanity Fair, saying Beetlejuice is yet another legacy sequel that serves as a sad testament to the original film's ingenuity. So already we have one that is leaning a bit towards the negative side, saying it didn't really fulfill, what they wanted as a sequel. But, we've still got plenty more to cover. So this next one we got comes from IndieWire, saying, starring Jenna Ortega, Winona Ryder, and more new and returning stars, Tim Burton has married his jamboree of gags, visual spectacle, and charming practical effects with a distinctly human tale. So while they didn't really give kind of their feeling on the movie overall, they described, what makes this movie work and kind of what's in it. And the distinctly human tale part has me really interested. I'm really curious to see what exactly they mean by that in particular, especially when I go and watch the movie myself. But the next one we have comes from Discussing Film, saying Beetlejuice 2 is a chaotic and amusing sequel that is far better than many recent Tim Burton films, but that doesn't come near the quality of any of his classics. So it seems like, yes, it's not gonna be as bad as something like that Dumbo movie. If you love it, that's you, but that movie is kind of not really beloved by the majority the way some of his classics are. But it does seem like still it's not perfect. It's far from a Tim Burton classic. It doesn't quite reach those heights of a Beetlejuice, of a Edward Scissorhands, and anything like that. But it seems like it's a solid sequel according to Discussing Films. This next one though that we have comes from Kristen Maldonado, and she says Beetlejuice is overstuffed and busy to the point that the emotional moments don't land. The characters lack solid development, and some feel like glorified cameos with no real purpose. I wish the story was more focused and streamlined. This didn't work for me. That's unfortunate to hear. It is another kind of mixed one, unfortunately, but we do got plenty more to cover, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one, which comes from Whitlock and Pope. They say Beetlejuice, the long-awaited return of Tim Burton's ghost with the most. Despite game efforts from Michael Keaton and Catherine O'Hara, the results are decidedly middling in this overstuffed, undercooked, fitfully amusing legacy sequel. So this seems like one of those reviews that are leaning more positive and that kind of give it the benefit of the doubt, but they're still clear that it has many issues. And while I don't think anyone really expected this to be perfect, I do think this is tempering some expectations. There are people talking about kind of the characters and the emotional moments, and to me personally, I didn't really fall in love with the original because of the emotional moments, but rather kind of this zaniness and quirkiness, this distinct flavor that came with the Beetlejuice movie, and I just want to see that tenfold in the sequel. But that's just me personally. But we are going to move on. The next review comes from 𝙁𝙗𝙚 saying Beetlejuice is full of shtick jokes revisited, Keaton doing extra, O'Hara being a kicked up Delia, Ryder still being strange and unusual, and Ortega staying angsty. Everything this type of sequel should be. So to her, this seems like the sequel really met expectations and was kind of what she expected or wanted out of this, which is pretty good to hear. We're gonna cover some more though. You guys start leaving your comments obviously on what you're thinking about these reviews so far, but the next one we have comes from Emma Sasic. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing these. I sincerely apologize, but they said Beetlejuice is ghoulishly fun. Burton honors his first film with throwbacks, all while expanding his characters and world to make a delightful new story. The whole cast got the assignment and delivers plenty of laughs. So many great set pieces in the afterlife too. That is something that I talked about in my reactions to the trailer, which you guys can go check out. But I was really curious to see, what we'll dive more into in the sequel if the afterlife gets more to be shown, obviously with this bigger budget and the blockbuster treatment that is going to come with this sequel. But we're gonna move on. This next one comes from 𝙎𝙬𝙆𝙀 saying Beetlejuice makes all the smart steps, telling a very human and very beautiful story full of much needed hope, but it's also deeply tragic and heartfelt with underlying kindness I absolutely didn't expect. That's someone talking about the emotions and how it was able to land. See, these things are all subjective, and that just shows because we did see someone talk about how the emotions didn't land, but for this person, it seemed like that was kind of the highlight and takeaway from this movie for them, which is great to hear and great to see. The next one we have though comes from Mike Reyes saying Beetlejuice has all of the fun, reviving this horror comedy from the afterlife. Tim Burton and the cast clearly loved making this movie, which is as bonkers, sweet, and twistedly fun as expected. The juice is loose again, and it feels like old times. Man, when I watched that first trailer and Michael Keaton came out and said the juice is loose, you just knew he didn't lose a single step. Everything was gonna be okay with that character. He looked great. I mean, everything from the body language, from his voice to the cadence and delivery of his lines. So far from what we've seen, it really seems like he is like fitting in the boots perfectly, and I'm so glad that someone has obviously admired that in multiple of these reviews already, pointing out how his performance was great. But Scott Menzel says Beetlejuice is old school Burton zaniness and greatness, a loving tribute to the 1988 film as well as international cinema. Michael Keaton still has the juice, delivering a hilarious and brilliant performance. The end MacArthur Park sequence is destined to become the new 𝙎𝙄𝘆. This is going to be a massive hit. Wow, those are some big words and huge things to say, from putting a sequence on the level of that 𝙎𝘆 sequence to really kind of being confident in how well this movie is going to do. I don't know if that means reception wise or kind of how successful the movie will be financially, but it seems like there's stuff in this movie for a lot of people to kind of attach and grab onto to hopefully help them enjoy the experience. But we're gonna cover a couple more and then close this video out. But this next one comes from Perry Nemroff, great person, and she says delighted by Beetlejuice. The original is an all-time favorite, and the new one plays like such a joyous romp back into that world. Michael Keaton doesn't skip a beat. Winona Ryder and Jenna Ortega's mother-daughter storyline is a big winner for me. The element that gives the movie an effective beating heart Loved the concept for Willem Dafoe's character, an actor who becomes a cop in the afterlife but is still playing a cop. Quite enjoyed all the performances, but Catherine O'Hara, non-stop brilliance, just true perfection in this role and in this world. Love hearing it. This one was a lot more detailed, more focused on the performances, but I love how they really enjoyed how much it really brought them back to the world of Beetlejuice, back to what makes it so unique. And really, that's what I'm looking for in this sequel. I don't need an Oscar level best picture movie, nor am I expecting that, but I want to be brought back. You know, that first movie had so many things that helped it stick out and be unique, and revisiting that is something hopefully I get to experience, and that is great and satisfying. But the next one we have comes from Rachel Leishman saying, "The juice is loose, baby. Beetlejuice is weird, quirky, and a worthy sequel to the 1988 film. I instantly had a soft spot for it with the use of MacArthur Park, but having Michael Keaton back as Beetlejuice is beyond perfection." The next one we have comes from Ren Geekness, and they said, Beetlejuice is quintessential Tim Burton, delightfully zany, mean-spirited, and macabre, and narratively all over the place. Its wacky energy immerses us in its cartoony world, but it's too heavily plotted for its own good, unable to balance all of its threads compellingly. That is another mixed one, kind of talking about what it trips up on, and it seems to be that the plot is apparently a bit overstuffed or convoluted, or doesn't get enough time to kind of flesh out some of these things that are going on, but we will see ourselves. This is all subjective, of course. At the end of the day, we're going to cover one more and wrap this up, though. This last one comes from Eric Davis, who says Tim Burton's Beetlejuice movie is every kind of weird you're looking for and then some. The film does a great job honoring the original while expanding the story and characters with outrageous practical effects. So bizarre, so Burton. The cast is superb, but Catherine O'Hara triumphs. That is another person really talking about Catherine O'Hara's performance, and she's an amazing actress who like really steals the show and has tons of emotive energy in her roles. So I'd imagine, you know, her being a standout isn't too much of a surprise. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think about all of these reactions and reviews? Place your comments below. How excited are you for Beetlejuice? What do you think of the original, if you've seen it at all? Any thoughts related to this, leave it in the comments. I love discussing with you all. And yeah, those were the reactions. You know, some were mixed, some were negative, but most of them leaned positive, which is always great to hear. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Remember to like the video, subscribe, and click that bell. It helps out the channel a lot, and especially if you like this type of content, you can be notified. But other than that, it's been your boy 𝙎𝙬🎑, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one.